But tonight I wanted to go through some great stretches for the hamstrings. In order to be able to show them fully to you, I need to step back a little bit, which means that I unfortunately am not going to be able to read the comments because my screen is too small, but I will come back towards the phone after I get done showing you those poses, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay. So now that I'm scooted back here, the biggest thing that you want to remember, again, when building flexibility is to make sure that you find a good solid moderate stretch through the muscle. So if you do too little, obviously you're not going to get much of a stretch. If you do too much, you are going to have your body kind of naturally lock up to help protect that area, and you can actually strain the muscle in different areas too. So when you're stretching the hamstrings, it's very important to make sure that you feel that stretch in the belly of the muscle, right in the middle of your hamstring. If you start to feel it up towards your seat, come back out of it, bend your knee a little bit, or you can always just come out of for example, if it's a fold, coming up just a little bit, and that will help release some of that pressure. But it is somewhat easy to get a high hamstring strain, which is extremely painful. You don't want to do it. I had one during my yoga teacher training, and it's just no fun to recover from, so just please be careful. First thing I want to show you is a forward fold variation. And I have my strap here. If you don't have a strap, you could use a scarf, a blanket, a towel, a belt, anything that kind of helps essentially lengthen your arms. And for this first version, I'm going to flex my feet. I'll take the strap around my feet, and then I'm just going to allow myself to pull in. I want to lead with my heart, keeping my back as flat as I can, and that's going to help release a little bit more through the hamstrings. When you start to round, you don't get as ineffective of a stretch as when you really pull in with a flat back. So hold that pose for several breaths. I'd start with 3 to 5 breaths, and then you can lengthen that. You could turn this into a restorative pose by putting blankets, pillows, that sort of thing beneath your chest, and then just surrendering into it for a couple minutes, up to even 5 minutes for that one. So to help stretch the hamstring in a slightly different area, I'm going to come to a seated, kind of like a hurdler's pose is what this is sometimes called. And again, doing the same thing, you can loop the strap around your foot if you'd like and melt forward. That just kind of helps access it a little bit better, but you could certainly do this on your own. When you're in any forward fold, it's kind of a good idea to leave your hands up, because when we have our hands down, the tendency is to kind of pull ourselves in a little bit, and you just want to find a spot where you're allowing your body to surrender into things, and that's a good way to do it, is just to leave your hands up. So those are a couple really great hamstring stretches to help loosen things up. Doing like a straddle stretch is also going to be a good idea, because it's going to help lengthen different areas of your hamstrings. You want to make sure you get in the middle and then on the sides. So something like a straddle stretch going over to the side is going to get more of the outside of the hamstring, so make sure that you do something like that to help stretch the entire part. And then when you start to build up more flexibility, you can come into variations like, for example, like a half splits, where you keep your hips stacked over your back knee and your front foot will come forward. And again, leading with your heart, stretching out the back of the thigh there. And then when you're even more flexible, you can come into a pyramid pose, keeping your feet like they would be for a warrior one. And then if you need to, you could always keep a block beneath your hands, or you could even take a chair beneath your hands if you really are working on that flexibility. You can always keep a deep bend in the knee too if you need to. But again, finding the spot where you get a good stretch through the hamstring. And come back here. So those are some of my top poses for helping to build hamstring flexibility. If you're just starting out, I would start with the first ones that I described, and then the last two are a little bit more advanced, especially really both that half splits, the Ardha Hanumanasana, and the pyramid pose. They really do get pretty deep into the hamstrings. There are definitely ways to modify them, but if you're still working on flexibility, just take it easy, let your body do what it needs to. And if you really make a commitment to building up flexibility and do a little bit every day, you'll find that your flexibility does come back pretty quickly. And oh, good. Glad to hear it. Sorry, not glad to hear that you're having trouble with flexibility. But yeah, the key thing, and I said this in yesterday's scope, but just in case you missed it, consistency is key, definitely. Finding the right amount of stretch is key, because if you take it too far, your muscles are just going to lock up, because your body naturally wants to protect itself from overstretching because it can damage the muscle. So just find where you're at and then do it consistently. And then my other big tip is to foam roll out the area and then stretch it. That will actually often help you gain a little bit more quickly than if you're just stretching alone.